Have you ever felt like, no matter how hard you try, life still feels heavy? Not because your problems are too big, but because, somehow, you're carrying them the wrong way. There was a man named Daniel Carter. He was 42 years old, lived in a quiet suburb outside Chicago, and from the outside, his life looked fine. Stable job, small house, a car that started every morning. Nothing impressive, but nothing broken either. And yet, Daniel was tired, not physically, mentally, the kind of tired that doesn't go away with sleep. Every morning, his alarm would ring at 6:30. Same sound, same routine. He'd sit on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor, already feeling behind. Before the day even began, his mind would start racing. Emails he hadn't answered, bills that were coming up, and things he should have done better yesterday, things that might go wrong today. And the strange part? Nothing catastrophic was happening, but everything felt heavy. At work, Daniel was known as reliable. He never missed deadlines, never complained, never joked. He was serious about everything, too serious. If someone made a mistake, Daniel would fix it. If something went wrong, he'd take responsibility. If a problem appeared, he'd carry it like it was his alone. And slowly, without realizing it, he started carrying more than he needed to. One evening, after a long day, Daniel stopped by a small grocery store. Nothing fancy, just a quiet place with dim light and old wooden shelves. He grabbed a basket and started picking up a few things: milk, bread, eggs. Simple, routine. But then, something unusual caught his attention. Near the checkout counter, there was an old man. He looked to be in his late 60s. Gray hair, slightly messy, wearing a simple jacket and worn-out shoes. But what stood out wasn't his appearance. It was what he was doing. He was holding a basket, but instead of carrying it normally, he had it lifted above his head, both arms raised, carefully balancing it like it was something fragile. And inside the basket, just a few apples. A loaf of bread, nothing heavy. People walked past him, glancing, confused. Some smiled. Some laughed quietly, but the old man, he didn't seem embarrassed at all. He was calm, almost amused. Daniel stared for a moment, unsure whether to ignore it or ask, but curiosity won. He walked over. "Excuse me," Daniel said carefully. "Why are you holding your basket like that?" The old man turned, smiled warmly. "Because it's lighter this way," he said. Daniel frowned. "That doesn't make any sense." The old man chuckled. "Exactly." Then he slowly lowered the basket, holding it normally again. "It doesn't change the weight," he continued, "but it changed how I feel carrying it." Daniel crossed his arms. "I don't get it." The old man studied him for a second. Then he said something unexpected. "You look like someone who carries things the hard way." Daniel blinked. "What do you mean?" Instead of answering directly, the old man picked up the basket again and handed it to Daniel. "Try this," he said. Daniel hesitated, but something in the man's calm voice made it hard to refuse. He took the basket. "Now," the old man said, "carry it above your head and walk to the end of the aisle." Daniel almost laughed. "This is ridiculous." "Exactly," the old man said again, smiling. Reluctantly, Daniel raised the basket above his head. Immediately, he felt awkward, exposed. People looked. A woman passing by raised an eyebrow. A kid giggled. Daniel's face tightened. "This is stupid," he muttered. But he kept walking, step by step, trying to ignore the stares, trying to maintain balance. Then his arms started to ache slightly, not because the basket was heavy, but because of how he was holding it. Halfway down the aisle, something strange happened. He caught his reflection in a small security mirror, and for the first time in a long time, he saw himself From the outside, a grown man, holding a basket of groceries over his head, looking tense, serious, uncomfortable, trying so hard to do something simple, perfectly. And suddenly, he laughed. A small laugh at first, then a real one, the kind that catches you off guard, because for a brief moment, he realized how absurd it all looked. Not just the basket, but everything, the pressure, the overthinking, the constant need to carry everything perfectly, seriously, alone. He reached the end of the aisle and lowered the basket. His arms relaxed, his shoulders dropped, he exhaled. The old man was waiting. "Well?" he asked. Daniel shook his head, still smiling slightly. "That was, uncomfortable." The old man nodded. "Yes, because you made something simple harder than it needed to be." Daniel went quiet. The old man leaned closer, his voice softer now. "Life is like that basket," he said. "The weight doesn't always change, but the way you carry it does." Daniel didn't respond, but something inside him shifted, not dramatically, not all at once, but enough. That night, Daniel went home. Same house, same silence, same responsibilities awaiting for him, but something was different. When he sat down to check his emails, he noticed the familiar tension rising again, the tightness in his chest, the urge to fix everything immediately, to control everything, to carry everything perfectly. And then he paused. For just a second, he leaned back in his chair, looked at the screen, and instead of diving in, he let out a quiet chuckle. It felt strange, almost wrong, but also relieving. The emails were still there. The problems hadn't disappeared, but for the first time, they didn't feel like they were crushing him. Over the next few days, nothing in Daniel's life magically improved. Deadlines still existed, mistakes still happened, unexpected problems still showed up. But Daniel changed something subtle. When things went wrong, he didn't immediately tense up. Sometimes he'd shake his head and smile. Sometimes he'd even laugh. Not because things were funny, but because he finally saw how serious he had been making everything. And slowly, life felt lighter. Not easier, but lighter. Because he stopped carrying it the hard way. A week later, Daniel went back to that same grocery store. He didn't know if the old man would be there, but he hoped. He walked through the aisles, glancing around, and then, near the checkout, he saw him again. Same jacket, same calm presence. This time, the old man was holding a basket normally, and Daniel walked up, smiling. "I tried it," he said. The old man raised an eyebrow. "And?" Daniel took a breath. "It didn't change my life," he said honestly, "but it changed how I feel living it." The old man smiled. "That's where everything begins." They stood there for a moment in comfortable silence. Then Daniel picked up his groceries. Before leaving, he paused. "Why do you do that?" he asked. "The basket thing." The old man shrugged lightly. "To remind myself," he said, "that just because something feels heavy doesn't mean I have to suffer while carrying it." Daniel nodded slowly. Then he walked out. Not with fewer problems, not with a perfect life, but with something far more powerful, a lighter way of living. So let me ask you, what are you carrying right now? That feels heavier than it actually is. And more importantly, are you sure you're not just carrying it the hard way? Because sometimes, the secret to happiness and success isn't about removing the weight from your life. It's about learning how to carry it without letting it crush you.